Good morning, everybody. It's Positive Tuesday today, January 24th, 2023. Fond du Lac District Attorney and President of the Wisconsin District Attorneys Association, Eric Toney, is joining us this morning to talk about the state budget for prosecutors, Wisconsin bail laws possibly changing, ATF's rule on pistol braces, and the upcoming Supreme Court election. We will not be discussing, Fitzy, the fact that both you and I endorsed Adam Jarko in the Attorney General's primary race last year. We'll gloss over that part. But first, for Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald, I'm Ben Dryden. And of course, you're watching Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy, presented by Professional Exteriors and Interiors. With nearly 20 years of experience, this locally owned and operated business provides quality work both on the outside and on the inside of your home or business. So give Brian a call today, 715-520-2271. Like Fitzy and I, they believe that it's the little things that make a big difference. Fitzy, good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm fantastic. It's Positive Tuesday.
You wrecked it. I was going to jump in, Romaine, and say, and it's his birthday.
Romaine Quinn, it's his birthday. Holy cow. Eric, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Thanks for, coming on the show this morning. You've been on before, like with just me. I think we did a couple of shows last year. So hopefully this show meets your standards. And if not, just do it all of our viewers what they do, and that's just lower your standards.
It's always great to be on. It's always a lot of fun. So thanks for having me. Really.
Of course. So we always like to start. So we usually do press releases, things that Fitzy has sent out in Barron County, or articles, crime court related, stuff like that. And we also have some quick hits and shout outs or show. But we're going to skip those two things and get to you about the topics we want to get to. But we cannot gloss over positive things in our lives. Fitzy, we'll start with you.
Yep.
What's positive going on in your life?
I was at hockey in Madison this weekend watching Jace and won some games, and so that was good. So, great weekend.
Hockey. Every week. It's only hockey.
Well, yeah, and I'm gonna miss in 2 weeks. I'll be gone, but I'm traveling the next 2 weeks for hockey. So
I already have a guest lined up to fill in for you.
Perfect.
Eric, how about you? Something positive going on in your life? I feel like I already know the answer to this, Romaine Quinn.
Well, as has been, it is my birthday today, but apart from that, one of the advantages to losing a statewide race is you get a lot more time on your hands. So I've been investing that time in some remodeling at my house. So that's been a lot of fun and pretty relaxing. So.
I'm sorry, fun and relaxing? I've never heard that said before about working on your house.
Hey, if you've never taken wallpaper down, come on over.
No, no, it does not sound like fun at all. My positive, look what I'm wearing there, Fitzy.
I see. I should take a picture and send it to the guys.
That's right. Well, I have the picture. So this last weekend, I ran into Fitzy actually down in Rice Lake. I went down to get a vehicle at South Lake Motors, and I ran into Fitzy, Drush, and I did, and I even have a picture. Look at that right there. I tell you. Whoopsie. I should move that. Yeah, boy, Drush is really short. Cow, standing next to you. That was my positive. I've never had a newish vehicle before, so that's just really weird. But it was a lot of fun seeing you. You almost slipped and fell on the ice outside the building, which, we already know that you shouldn't run after suspects without falling down and breaking something.
Right.
But now we know you can't even walk into a building without falling down.
I didn't fall, but I was close.
You were close. All right, we have a lot to discuss with our guest this morning, including the state budget for prosecutors, and what I'm looking forward to the most is the possibility of Wisconsin bail laws changing. We'll get to those and much more in 15 seconds after a word from Spooner Health.
Satisfaction surveys and in conversations with patients, they appreciate the fact that staff got to know them. Staff really took their preferences into account, and they just feel grateful that they are being cared for as a person.
To learn more about our services, visit SpoonerHealth.com.
Fond du Lac District Attorney and President of the Wisconsin District Attorneys Association, Eric Toney, is joining us this morning on the big show. Eric, state budget for prosecutors. Obviously, with you being the president of the Wisconsin District Attorneys Association, that must be a tie in there. So what is this? What is the state budget for prosecutors?
Well, we submit our biennial budget along with everyone else. And this year, we've got a very narrow request. We have, I think it's fair to call it a prosecutor crisis going on in Wisconsin. Just recently in Dodge County, the district attorney resigned and there were effectively 0 prosecutors in the office, and they haven't been able to find prosecutors to fill those positions. The Sheboygan DA's office has, I think, about 4 prosecutors out of the 10 they're supposed to have. There are counties across Wisconsin that are short-staffed, and especially some of our smaller rural counties that are further away from major population centers are having a difficult time recruiting candidates. And so one of the things we've asked the legislature to do, do you have I'll have you guess, Ben, do you know what the starting salary for an assistant district attorney is right now?
In the state of
How many dollars per hour?
oh, I was going to say $65,000 a year.
A little over $27 an hour.
Okay, I was way off, and I wasn't trying to like say it high, but what? Don't they have to? They have to go to ADAs. Have to go to law school and stuff, right?
Yep, college and law school. So usually about 7 or more years of schooling that they go through, and so that $27 an hour isn't competitive with private attorneys and even some other public sector attorneys. So what we did was a market study looking at some neighboring states. What are they paying their prosecutors as well as assistant corporation counsels here in Wisconsin? And the average for those all came out to a little over $35 an hour. So what we're asking the legislature to do is increase that starting pay to $35 an hour. So it would still be a little under, but we still feel it would be very competitive to let us recruit great new prosecutors. And on top of that, we have a retention issue where prosecutors right now are leaving to become assistant corporation counsels, private sector, other jobs where we're losing these very experienced prosecutors. So we need to raise their pay up as well. And so we've targeted $7.76 an hour so that we can make sure we're holding on to these great prosecutors, and then making sure that on the back end of that, we have pay progression, which is merit-based. So you don't automatically get a raise. You have to be making the standard that that district attorney has set within the office to ensure that they're getting the raises. And I'm sure the sheriff could talk with you or share a little bit about the value of having an experienced prosecutor as they review cases and the challenges that we face with new people coming in and the training issues and the amount of time that it takes to get them up to speed. Because if we go back from 2012 to the fall of 2022, we had about a 59% turnover rate with prosecutors, leaving us with about 65% of them that have less than 10 years or less experience, which has put a tremendous burden on the criminal justice system. And so taking this narrow request to the legislature, and I will say this, we've had a great partnership with the legislature in past budgets on some forms of pay progression, and they've been, I think they understand and are supportive of the issue, and it sounds like it'll be a question of what, not if, something will be done, and we continue to have those discussions and are very appreciative of those in the legislature that have I've spoken with over the past year or so, and very, very optimistic, but we'll have to see what that budget ultimately is.
Would you do me a favor, Eric, and we're kind of like troubleshooting on the fly here. Would you, I know you put those earbuds in but we're getting like a ticking noise that's coming in. I think it started when you put those in. Can you turn those things off? And we'll try it. And you may have to sign back out and sign back in, but this should work fine. But for some reason, I'm hearing, Fitzy, could you hear that? Oh, there he goes. Did you hear that, Fitzy? No. Like this ticking?
No, I couldn't.
Oh, shoot. Maybe it's on my end. Sorry about that, Eric. Well, $27 an hour. Holy cow. And he's back. There we go. So $27 an hour for an ADA. That's silly. My second oldest, third, whatever. One of my daughters, yesterday, she's 20, and she sent me a message and said she just got $1.73 an hour raise. And she works part-time, and she's getting 17 something an hour. She's part-time. And not in a career field. She's making like 17. I'm like, holy cow. That's crazy. $17 an hour. And our ADAs are 27. No wonder why. So is this statewide issue? Fitzy, down in Barron, are you guys struggling with ADAs or getting ADAs or keeping ADAs?
Well, struggling, yes. We're short one right now. He's on military leave. But in the meantime, that the county gave us 1 year, a year and a half. He was going to be gone for a year and a half. They gave us an opportunity to fill that. We couldn't even fill it. So we've been down one. We've got a young, new prosecutor that's doing really good. We're lucky. We have John O'Boyle, an experienced prosecutor, Brian Wright, an experienced prosecutor. So we're blessed up here to have two experiences. And we're only one short, but we were two short for a little while. But that wage is statewide too. Every ADA makes the exact same amount of money, and I think people forget about that.
What?
Yeah. So if you're, there's longevity.
That's dumb. Like teachers get more money down in Milwaukee than they do probably like Binong, right? Or I was just assuming. I don't know.
Well, It used to be different where the counties were actually in charge of the salary, and then there were these disparities, and so that shifted over to the state sometime around 1990 to try to level that out, which is why it's flat across the board.
That's stupid. I'm just saying. Sheriffs don't even, like what you make, Fitzy, is different than probably what Tracy Finch or Brent Walk or Dennis here. That's all different. But wait, hold on. Who pays the ADAs? Is that paid by the county or is that paid by state? It must be state because it's a state budget stuff, so I get it.
Yeah.
All right, so what is being done to address this? You said it sounds like they're going to do something, it's just how much. So where do you come into this? Eric Toney, you're a district attorney, fond-elect. Yeah, you're in for attorney general, but that has nothing to do with what we're doing right now. Is it just because you are the president of the DA's Association? What role do you play, and what's happening? What's next? Are we getting this done?
Yeah, so with the Wisconsin District Attorneys Association, we're a group that represents prosecutors all across Wisconsin, so DAs, ADAs, deputy DAs, and I'm currently the president of that association. So one of the things we started combined a few budget cycles ago was working with the state courts, the public defender's office, the Department of Justice, and prosecutors, and we come together with a criminal justice coalition white paper where we try to take a narrow approach of these are the budget issues that we think are necessary for the system to operate. And so that's something that we're coordinating with, and all of the things that I've laid out for prosecutors we've put into that white paper and have been talking with legislators across Wisconsin. As you mentioned, when I was running for Attorney General, that was something that I talked about quite a bit, was prosecutor pay. And I think a lot of our legislators and others have probably heard me talk about that, probably till I'm blue in the face at times. And so I think from the conversations I've been having that they understand the issue, and I'm very, very optimistic that as we talk about public safety and the great work that our law enforcement does, we need to make sure we've got great prosecutors on the back end that can help keep our community safe and fight for justice on behalf of victims.
So I want a pay raise. Got it. That's what I'm hearing. So is that
the whole process on this slows the whole? I mean, and Eric's right. I mean, we love the work that we do in law enforcement, but if there's not a prosecutor up there, then the case sits. I mean, there's a whole nother topic behind that for the public defender's office and finding them. And that's a whole different topic. And they're at the pay that they're getting, and there's no public defenders because of that pay is even worse. And if you're going to go to get a law degree, you're going to go where the money is. I mean, private attorneys make so much more money. I mean, this isn't a glamorous job being an elected official. I mean, we don't just, money just doesn't fall from the ceiling and things like that as an elected official. But there's some pride, there's some joy. That's why Eric and I do what we do. We're elected. We love it. Well, we think we do. Most of the time we love it. But that's it. That can clog this whole system down. And that's Eric's point. And this is really going to help keep some of that. And it's very easy. It's the governor should do this, hands down, done deal. This should be the number one priority. It's probably not number one, but it should
be up there.
It should be just done and get it done. And let's not talk. I don't think we have to do a big discussion on it. I don't think anybody out there thinks that $27 is a lot for a lawyer.
Yeah. So a couple of things wrote down. First of all, public defenders, is that the same thing as court-appointed attorneys?
They're different. So public defenders have, I guess I'll say, in-house attorneys that the state pays for. And many counties either have an office or there's an office that's kind of like a hub and will branch out to some of the other counties. And we've got a challenge in recruiting and retaining public defenders right now. And so the finances that I just laid out for prosecutors, we're asking for public defenders to receive effectively the same thing. Because when you have a defendant that's sitting in jail, we're having a lot of serious cases waiting months for an attorney to be appointed. And those can be homicides, shootings, sexual assault, crimes where there are victims on the other end. And those victims are waiting for justice, waiting for those cases to move forward. And they can't while a defendant doesn't have an attorney. One of the other areas the coalition is trying to alleviate this is increasing the pay for when a public defender's office can't take a case because of a conflict, or they also have a kind of a cap on the number of cases through a point system that they can take in a given week or a month. I forget which one it is. For prosecutors, we don't have that cap. Whatever the sheriff's office or law enforcement sends to us, we just have to take. We don't get to say, okay, we're done taking cases for the month. So then for the public defenders, they tap into the private bar who agrees to take public defender appointments. And right now, that rate of pay is $70 an hour. Sometimes someone won't qualify for a public defender, and then the court can appoint an attorney, and that's generally about $100 an hour. So the public defenders are looking to move that $70 an hour up to $125 an hour, so they're not competing with counties. And this is something I suspect a lot of counties would actually be in favor of, because it will actually help county budgets. Because
Right.
a lot of some of our judges across the state, when someone qualifies for a public defender and they can't find an attorney, the judge is appointing a county appointed attorney, and that has other ramifications. Even though the defendant is supposed to pay back the county on some serious cases, it's not meaningfully going to happen based on a prison sentence. And then if there needs to be some type of expert for the defendant, that's coming out of the county budget, even though it should have come out of the public defender budget, given that they qualified there.
Fitzy, are you seeing that down in Barron County, where it's is it hard to get these either court appointed or more specifically the special prosecutor, or not special, the public defenders? Is that an issue?
Huge issue. It's months before there's somebody will sit in jail for a month before they get an attorney, or longer, and that's not right. That's not how the system is supposed to work.
Isn't there something in the Constitution about this too? I don't know. I haven't read it lately, but isn't there something about, I don't know if it's a speedy trial or something where it's okay, like we need to move this forward. That's your right to have a trial or whatever it is.
Well, they get the initial appearance, they get an attorney to represent them, to make a decision, but a lot of times they waive those time limits because they want to make sure the prosecution is good and up to speed, and not just come in and say, they're guilty or they're not guilty, or do half of a job. So they want to make sure they're appointed. They know they have time to review the case. I'm not probably saying it right, Eric, but that's what it takes to do all of that, to make sure they get proper representation. But we're talking months and months. And when people want to know why their case took a year, it's because 3 months of it might be finding an attorney, then giving time limits to them to get the case up to speed. It's a huge, huge deal in the clog in the justice system.
And the clog in the state labs as well. But that's a whole other topic. Eric, is this something that is receiving bipartisan support, or is there, as we have all, I think we all pretty much know that most things, or at least the big topic things, it's going to have one side, Republicans are this and Democrats are this. Is this one of those, or is it actually, it's kind of weird. Everybody seems to be signing up for this. It's just a question of how much.
I never want to speak for, our entire legislature or for the governor's office. All I can say is the sense I've gotten from the meetings that our coalition has been a part of, and that includes legislative leadership, Republicans and Democrats, the governor's office. It feels like there's support there, but there aren't hard commitments right now, which I wouldn't expect until we get closer to budgets actually being put together. But it does seem like a bipartisan issue to address the pay for prosecutors and public defenders, because it's not just protecting the constitutional rights of the accused, but also making sure these cases are moving through our court system and improving public safety.
All right, so before we move on to the next topic, which is Wisconsin bails, and I can't wait to talk about this, because everyone views bails pretty much like that's the sentence. So if it's like a $2,000 bail, what? That's it was this so I can't wait to talk about this. But to kind of put a bow on this one, is this going to be done this year? Is it one of those, no, it has to go through this year, and then it has to go through like 2 cycles? When is this going to come to fruition? A decision is going to be made, and it will be this year or next year? And if so, this year, when?
Are we talking about pay or the bail?
Pay.
Yeah, so this will be addressed, if at all, in the upcoming state budget, which usually gets passed around the summer. So I expect that if this gets handled, it is going to be addressed this year. I don't expect it to be in a separate bill of any sort, that it would be handled through the budget process. But that can always change. It all depends on the governor and the legislature and what are proposed in the respective budgets. I expect we'll see the governor next month put forward his budget, and then, as tradition has it, I think the legislature will put forward their budget, and so we're going to continue to have our discussions and hope we see it in both of those budgets and can get to a good spot.
All right. Fitzy, do you have anything else to add to that, or questions regarding that topic?
I think it needs to get passed. It should get passed before the summer, but it won't. Eric's right. It'll get passed in the budget. But we'll see. And we'll talk more about it on the show because we'll talk about the governor's budget, which is the state of the state is tonight. We might see a glimpse of that tonight, but tonight will be a broad stroke, as Eric and I were talking off the air. It'll be a broad stroke to see what the governor has it up his sleeve for the state budget and all the surplus. And we have money to spend on some of these topics. So I think some of that surplus should be used for things like this. And I think that benefits every citizen in the county. Because if our cases go faster, staff, it benefits everybody. So
it really does. And it's all part of the system. And if you support law enforcement, you may not realize it, but then you should also support this, right? The district attorney's office, the judge's office. I mean, it's all works together. You can't just be supportive of one and the other one like, who cares? It all kind of goes together. So Mike Jeepers was on the ball, and he said, I'm interested in Eric's thoughts on the bail reform constitutional amendment bill, and that's kind of what we're getting to right now, and that is, well, first, for people who don't know, there is a lot of talk for people who are paying attention about this topic. Fill everybody in what's going on.
So we've had, this all started kind of back in 2017 with a constitutional amendment to improve our cash bail system. And the reason that's needed right now in Wisconsin, our Constitution here only allows a judge to consider cash bail to ensure a defendant appears in court. So the Constitution doesn't say you can do it for the dangerousness, to protect the community, things like that just seem like common sense to, I think, most of us, that we would all think, wow, cash bail should be used for those type of things. Now, a lot of prosecutors like myself and others across the state will make arguments in court to say, judge, based on this person's prior record or lack of ties to the area, or if there's a dangerousness component, they might not be likely to come to court. And we can craft arguments on those factors to dovetail that into whether someone will appear in court. And many judges will actually factor that in when setting cash bail. If we can say this person's facing 50, 100, 200 years of potential exposure time or mandatory minimums, that would impact their likelihood to appear in court. But some judges in Wisconsin will not consider those factors when setting. And this was first starting, I think, to get some traction back in 2017. Couldn't quite get it over the finish line. But to amend the Constitution here in Wisconsin, the process, you have it go through joint resolution through 2 different sessions of the legislature, and then it goes on the ballot for us, the people of Wisconsin, to decide, do we want to change the Constitution? So the previous legislative session, a constitutional amendment to amend the cash bail system passed, and it again was just passed recently here in Wisconsin. So it will be on the April 4th ballot this year, where the voters of Wisconsin get to do something that we don't always get to do, and that's where you get to cast a ballot to make Wisconsin safer, because this constitutional amendment changes what judges factor when setting bail. It no longer says it's only to appear in court. There are other factors that look at the dangerousness of the defendant, the prior record of the defendant, continuing to look at whether the defendant will appear in court or not, as well as protecting the community or preventing the intimidation of victims or witnesses, and also has a component where a defendant could be held with no bail for a period of time and extended for up to 60 days, which currently we have a statute on the books that allows a court to hold a defendant with no bail, but it's not a workable statute and frankly never gets used. So this is an outstanding improvement on our cash bail system, and I hope everybody will mark April 4th on their calendars to make sure they get out to vote in favor of this constitutional amendment. The Wisconsin District Attorneys Association, we supported this back in 2017, and our organization continues to support it now, as do I personally.
Is this like your judges, or maybe you don't want to answer that, but are judges in favor of this that you know of, or just, again, broad stroke here, whereas, yeah, we all look at this, and DAs, and maybe even Fitzy and sheriffs and law enforcement, but the judges, do they like this, or is it, no, don't tell me how to do my job? Because let's face it, judges can be a little sensitive. Don't tell me what to do. Is this a good thing? Are judges supportive of this as well, that you're aware of?
I haven't heard any judges that have been opposed to this. Now, I'm not out there polling judges.
Sure, yeah.
Take the temperature of them. And At the end of the day, prosecutors, judges, we could say whether we like something or not, but ultimately, oftentimes the legislature can pass bills and they can put mandatory minimums in place, or we can go through the constitutional amendment process that we're doing right now. And that's how the system should work. The legislature is the one that creates the laws. And if we have an amendment process now, that goes to the people to decide. And I think anybody that wants to look at what we're seeing in Wisconsin right now, record violence in parts of our state, Milwaukee, 3 straight murder records. We see the story after story with defendants that are out on bail in many of these circumstances. Darrell Brooks is the prime example, the Waukesha Parade Massacre that I think most people have heard of. And it's apparent this is necessary to improve public safety here in Wisconsin.
But I think it's for the little people too. I mean, the little counties, the little crimes. I mean, the meth, the fentanyl. I mean, that's what we're seeing up here, that I want to see some different bail. Why should the guy that just sold fentanyl in front of the high school, why should he be out on just because he's made it to every court case? There's some protection of the public that needs to be taken into account, and that's what we've been asking for from law enforcement, our prosecutors. We back them on this, and they've, it's an easy thing to say it should be 95% to 5 when we get done with this. It won't be, but it should be, because people are going to say it's disappropriate or disadvantaged people. Or no, it's to protect the public. It's the crime. It has nothing to do with the color of the skin or how much money they make, whatever it is. It's the crime. It's the court. It's all of that. And so I think I don't see any loopholes in this one either. This is a slam dunk too, I think.
I think it has to be.
Well, and I think, I have a lot of confidence in the voters of Wisconsin. You think back to April of 2020, we actually made a constitutional amendment that passed, and that legislative, well, it was a constitutional amendment that passed by the referendum in April of 20, and that was Marsy's Law, giving crime victims expanded rights here in Wisconsin. And that passed overwhelmingly with the support in Wisconsin to level the playing field between crime victims and defendants. And so I'm optimistic that Wisconsin is going to make this change, but we can't take it for granted. We need to make sure people are getting out on April 4th. You're talking to your friends and family and neighbors and making sure they understand what's on the ballot on April 4th to improve public safety here in Wisconsin, voting in favor of this constitutional amendment. And I encourage people, get on social media, post about it, make sure that your followers and your network know about this, because you can truly make a difference by getting active and pushing this out.
Is there, maybe it was just like an election promise kind of a thing from someone, I don't remember who at all, but is there something to, what was it, Fitzy? It was about like a statewide database for, I think it was judges. Maybe it was district attorneys. Now I think, I can't remember, about what do they ask for, or like what like bail was, and like they could actually have a database so then people could see how this person typically does. Was that an election thing, or was that a DOJ? I can't remember. Do you remember anything about that, Eric?
I don't remember that specifically, but I think there had been some discussion about some type of database. And one thing that's kind of interesting, a lot of people use CCAP to go and look at various, things related to whether it's court cases that are on the internet. And some counties are very detailed on criminal cases in the notes on there. And then some counties are
not
lax.
I know all about that.
And so there's a system in place where, because the clerks are writing down all of that information. You'll have a minutes sheet that often will have what the prosecutor requested, what the judge ordered, that type of thing.
That's nice.
And it would be, I would think, easy enough if there were an effort to do that, to just make sure it was in those CCAP entries.
And every time they do, we always make sure we put that in, because we focus a lot on our crime and court stories, and if those notes are in there, and we always love seeing it, state asked for this, defense asked for this, judge said this, because I think that just gives context. Because when you see something for $2,000, it's somebody wants to be upset with someone. Who?
Yeah.
Well, we don't know. No idea. If a state asks for $25, well, of course, defense will ask for $500. And if the judge says $50, it's okay. That's important information to know.
Right. I mean, it's a slam dunk. It's easy to do. It's going to be great because our judges are in a tough spot. They can't.
Yep.
That's all they can do. It's not the judge's fault. A lot of people blame the judges. but they can't take it into account. And these public defenders, they go up there and say, he's made every court date, Your Honor, and that's the end of the story. It doesn't matter what the crime is.
Yeah.
It's frustrating from a law enforcement standpoint, trying to keep the public safe, having people out on the, their third bail bond, bond violation. I think this is gonna help improve our system and stop some crime. I think it will actually help in the long run stop people from saying, "Ooh, I'm gonna probably go to jail this time. They're not gonna let me out right away, so I'm not gonna commit that crime." It might only be a small portion, but every crime that we stop is important.
Honestly, this is actually really exciting. No kidding. Like this, both of these topics we were just talking about is very exciting. If these things come to fruition, I mean, that's awesome. There's not a lot of bills that are like coming up that I'm actually going, wait, what's going on? Oh my goodness, this is great. Not that they aren't important, but I can really get behind both these two. And if they come to fruition, it's going to make a huge difference. Oh, move around, Fitzy. There you go.
One thing I think that's like an important distinction as well. We hear about the bail or no bail system, and that's not what this amendment will do. Now, the federal system, generally speaking, is you either have bail or you don't have bail. This system in Wisconsin would allow judges to continue to put cash bail in place, an opportunity for no bail. And one of the reasons we can have, a small amount of cash bail. Think about disorderly conduct, some very low level ones. And, maybe somebody misses court once or twice. And in a circumstance like that for a 90-day misdemeanor, we probably don't want to hold that person with no bail, but maybe we want $100, $200 cash posted, some skin in the game to make sure that they appear in court in the future. And that can be very effective in making sure that people appear in court as well if they've missed some court appearances. So this has a really nice balance to it that gives a lot of tools to prosecutors in the courts to make sure that the community and the public is safe while making sure defendants appear in court as well.
Well, now we just need to get those people, if they don't show up, to actually, lose that money.
We've never taken it.
No, that money doesn't ever seem to actually, show up anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know if you run into that issue down in Fond du Lac County. I'm just saying.
Well, so it's interesting, so you're bringing up the topic if cash bail is posted and then a defendant misses court. Generally at my office, what we do, we just make an oral motion to the court to forfeit the cash bond. Then the law requires the court to schedule that for a hearing, I think, within 30 days. Then at that hearing, that's when the judge will decide, are they going to forfeit the bond or are they not going to forfeit the bond? And so if the prosecutor makes the motion, the judge has to schedule the hearing, and then the court will have to make a decision based on, why court was missed. Sometimes bond might get reinstated, and other times it would get forfeited, and then it goes to, I believe, the county treasury for the most part.
Man, I could talk all day about this stuff, Fitzy. I love it. I'm learning so much.
Only because it's going to make a difference in what we talk about every day, the crime and court stories. Hopefully they'll go down. Our goal is to not have crime.
That'd be fantastic.
Goal is for Eric and I to sit around in our house.
And all I do is human interest stories. Like, that would be freaking awesome. I would love it.
It will have an impact on that. I mean, it's not going to impact it on the Tuesday after it passes, but 6 months, a year from now, yeah, I think if somebody has a $500 cash bond, and they're going to think twice about committing that crime, the next crime.
Yeah.
To some degree. Now, there's bad people in the world. There'll always be bad people in the world. But for that first-time offender, they're going to think, this wasn't just a slap on the wrist. I have some skin in the game, and I think that's important.
Well, there's a couple more things I just wanted to get your views on, Eric. Just kind of, short little things here. But first, is there anything about Wisconsin or what we've been talking about regarding the cash bond that you want to talk about that we didn't get a chance to?
Sheriff just brought up the $500 number. And I think if you see cash bond in felony cases, you might see 500 as a pretty common number.
Yep.
And when you go into the statute, there's a reason for that, intentional or not. But if it's $500 or less, the preliminary hearing timeframes are extended further out. If it's over $500, those timeframes are within 10 days. And so that number needs to be changed, in my opinion. That will take legislative action to make sure that, we're not seeing court, setting bond based on the court calendar, which, whether that's subconscious or not, I think is something that we might be seeing given the prevalency of that number.
I didn't know that. Man, it's like the third thing I just learned today on the show. I love it. So we had that's not going to be that's not up for discussion right now, though, right, Eric? I mean, that's not being discussed right now. That's not a part of the two things that we just talked about.
It is not part of the constitutional amendment. That would just take a legislative change, and I think there need to be some care with what that number looks like.
Sure.
But I do think a change is in order, and we can make the inflation joke.
Do me a favor, because sometimes this helps. If sign out or hang up and sign back in, because we're getting lag. It happens sometimes, usually to Fitzy. Man, this is awesome, Fitzy.
Yeah, this is.
Did you know about that $500 thing?
No, I did not. I just learned that.
This is great. This is fantastic. All right, then we're back. All right, so I had a story last week. It was I should have written down. The headline was something about Wisconsin sheriff isn't going to enforce an ATF's rule on pistol brace, something like that. So I didn't know anything about a pistol brace. So I had to research it because I didn't even heard of this, much less a rule coming in. I don't know if it's gone through the Federal Registry yet because I wrote the story Thursday night, posted it Friday morning. I don't know if that's come to fruition as of yet. But there's been some confusion regarding, is this a law? If all this goes through and it doesn't end up in court, which I kind of feel like it's going to, but if it doesn't end up in court and the legislature doesn't do anything with it and it just comes to fruition, is this a law or is this another one of those rules-ish? Kind of like Evers' mandate, people, don't gather 15 people or more. Well, a lot of people said, well, we're not going to, DAs and sheriffs said, we're not going to actually arrest these people because it's not an actual law. Can you educate us on that?
So what we saw was the ATF went through kind of a rulemaking process, and they changed some definitions for short-barreled rifles, bracing, and the, what the weapon's primarily intended for, things of that nature. So when you actually look at the rule, and I had a chance to look at it after we were texting, and it's very vague. It doesn't have like a specific surface area or something to that effect where, a pistol brace might be more for the forearm for stabilization. And, the ATF looked at it as it could be used, to brace against the shoulder. And so it's very vague where I think the average person would probably have a lot of difficulty understanding if they fall within the scope of this new rule or not. Now, the one thing that I suppose I would say is positive, here in Wisconsin, we have our own set of statutes that defines what a rifle is or short-barreled rifle, and the ATF doesn't have the authority to change our statutes here in Wisconsin, which I think is what our law enforcement and our prosecutors are going to be looking at. We don't have, as prosecutors, I don't have the authority to enforce federal law. That would be something that federal prosecutors, law enforcement would have to enforce. So that's I think a major distinction for folks that if local law enforcement were to be involved in something, they would be looking at our state statutes. I can't speak to what they might do or phone calls that they might make on the federal side, but I think traditionally we're not seeing our local law enforcement trying to enforce federal laws in that respect.
Oh, that's interesting. And by the way, ambiguity is probably not something you really want in a situation like this. It's pretty vague. I don't know.
Right.
Well, I'm sorry, we wrote this law. How many attorneys signed off on this? Well, it's kind of whatever.
Right, exactly.
All right, and then we have another. So this will be on the April 4th as well, for the bail, cash bail change or proposal for that for people to vote.
Quick too,
Sure.
it'll be I think 120 days once this hits the federal registrar where this will actually take effect. Mm-hmm. My suspicion is we're going to see a number of Republican attorneys general throughout the country that will probably get involved in some litigation with this change. Would be my suspicion. So I think we'll stay. And the story's not over yet on this one.
Yeah, no, I know. So when I was writing the story, I'm like, well, how do I kind of, I don't like to interject like my view or opinion in any story that I do. But I'm like, I shouldn't say it, but there's no way this is actually going to make it to the 120 days. It's going to end up in court. There's going to be litigation. That's just how this is going to go.
Right.
But I don't want to necessarily say that because what if it isn't? And then I look like an idiot, even more so than normal. So Supreme Court election. Politico.com had a story a week ago, and I think the headline was the most important race that nobody's ever heard of, I believe is what their headline was. So that is coming up. I think the primary in Wisconsin is on the 21st, so just like a month away from now. I think there's 2 liberal and 2 conservative, and then the top 2, so it's a nonpartisan race, which is silly. I mean, it's not silly, just we all know. So the top 2 will go to the April 4 election for the, general election, I think it's called, right? And that will be also for that April 4 ballot for the cash bonds. Are you paying attention to this race? Do you agree with Politico's headline, the most important race that no one's ever heard of? Do you echo the importance of this?
The reason this Supreme Court race is so important, and put for all the listeners, go to your phone or your calendar and mark down February 21st, Supreme Court primary, and April 4th, general election, and make sure you get out to vote. The reason this election is so important, Justice Rogensack is retiring, a conservative justice, and that puts the balance of the court in play, because if one of these left-wing liberals were to win, that will completely shift the balance of the court with a liberal majority. That's what makes this race so important. And there was a New York Times article, I think sometime last year, basically talking about Wisconsin and how liberals and Democrats can't win in the legislature, and so they can enact their changes through the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And these left-wing candidates, Judge Mitchell and Judge Protasewicz, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, they describe it as their values, and that's what they talk about across the campaign trail. They're not talking about judicial philosophy. They're directly talking on issues, telegraphing, in my opinion, how they're going to be voting, and have politicized a Supreme Court race like I think we've never seen before. And that is wrong, and that should not be in our judicial elections. They should be talking about their judicial philosophy, because, the example I like to give, I think everybody listening has probably signed a contract, maybe to buy a car, a house, whatever that might be. Now, imagine you had a judge that wasn't going to look at that contract based on the law, that they were going to make a decision based on their values and their feelings. How many people would want a judge that would be doing that?
No, you have one job to do, right? Isn't that what they say? I mean, obviously they have a lot of jobs and a lot of responsibilities, but it's one of those. I mean, you're a district attorney. You got one job. I mean, you have a lot, but right. Fitzy, you're a cop. You have one job, and enforce the law. It should be pretty simple.
So, and then imagine being a business owner, and now you've got a liberal Supreme Court that you don't have that consistency and predictability, because they might make a decision based on their feelings, not based on what the law is. And that's really what's at stake, where we have two judicial conservatives, Judge Dan Kelly and Judge Jennifer Dorow, who many people probably remember Judge Dorow from the Waukesha Parade Massacre, presiding over that trial, and the fantastic job that she did. And we'd love to see both of them get through the primary on February 20th.
That won't happen.
Probably not likely to happen, but that would be the best possible result. And then we get to pick from two wonderful candidates on the April 4th election. And
have you endorsed one of them yet? Or I should say, have they asked you to endorse one?
I had no intentions of getting involved after coming out of my election. I just wanted to focus on, my job and some other things. And I started paying a little bit more attention to these liberal candidates, and started hearing about Judge Dorow, and we all were familiar with her from that trial, and just the masterful job she did in protecting the constitutional rights of the defendant, while also preserving and protecting the rights of those victims.
I hear an endorsement coming, Fitzy.
This trial, wouldn't come back on appeal. And her judicial philosophy of the rule of law, a textualist, making decisions based on the original intent and not making decisions based on feelings or what political outcome they might want. That's exactly what we need on the Supreme Court. And as I said, we've got two wonderful judicial conservative candidates, but I ultimately endorsed Judge Jennifer Dorow, and she's got, I think, 38 sheriffs, bipartisan support across the state, the Milwaukee Police Association, Waukesha Chiefs of Police Association. And just as I've seen people just gravitate towards her across the state, that's a candidate that I believe can cross that divide and help make sure we can win in April, because we've been on not a complete losing streak with Senator Johnson winning, Derek Van Orden won, John Leiber won the treasurer's race. But I think Judge Dorow gives us a fantastic chance of winning in April with the background. She's in her 11th year as a judge in Waukesha County. She's the chief judge of her judicial district and the chief judge of the chief judges. And she was appointed by Governor Walker, went to Regent University, a strong conservative background. I've been dismayed because I've seen some conservatives that have decided to attack her. And I have made a decision. I'm not going to be supporting people in primaries when they're going to be attacking our candidates, because we've seen the challenges that has created than trying to win general elections, especially in November. And we have to get to a point of making these elections about the issues, not attacking our conservative candidates, because that's what the liberals want. And it makes it easy for the media to attack as well. And so I'm proud to endorse Judge Jennifer Doro. I'd encourage you to learn more about her. And as you do, I hope you'll join me in voting for her on February 21st.
And she'll be on for a show. I don't know. February. One of the Wednesdays in February. Like next, I think not this. What is today? Tuesday. I think it's not this Wednesday tomorrow. I think it's the following Wednesday. Or I don't know. In the next couple of weeks, she's going to be on for a show. I've never talked to her before. And yeah, Fitzy probably won't endorse her because he's a Democrat.
I understand.
Well, I want to say one more quick thing too. What I didn't know about her when I was getting to know her, her husband was a police officer for, I think it's up like 30-ish years or so, and he was a sergeant in Waukesha County.
Wasn't your dad a sergeant?
He was, and so I felt a little bit of that kinship with her, in that law enforcement family that she's been in as well.
And she's got patience like no other, because I would have thrown that guy out of that courtroom 100 times. Of course she did. And Eric's right. She had his rights in the best interest too. I mean, and no one wanted him to have rights, but he has rights. The defendant has rights, and she held them strong, and she held the victim strong, and she did an unbelievable job. Like I said, I would have thrown him out of the courtroom 100 times. Well, she did. I don't even know if she did twice. So it was impressive. She's impressive. I haven't endorsed anybody. I kind of stay out of that, but she's awesome. She's got some patience and some good ethics.
Yeah. Again, going back to, this shouldn't be a Republican or Democrat or liberal or conservative. You got one job. It's presented to you. This was done. Was this constitutional or was this not? Or just one job and just, there you go, done. Instead, it's, well, hold on. I think it should have been. No, don't think about it. I mean, like that way, it's not your personal opinions. I don't know how that is happening. It doesn't make any sense. And I don't know if like one side does it, like conservatives always do it, or liberals always do it. It doesn't matter. Maybe it's just individually based. I don't know, but that's just silly. It just is. There you go. There's my 2 cents.
Now we can close the show.
Now the show is over. So it looks like Dirk, he's our weather guy. He has the weather for us. He always does it at the end of the show.
It's gonna get cold.
Arctic air? Arctic? Yeah. Cold. That's all you had to say, Dirk. Just gonna be cold.
Gonna be cold.
Yeah.
Hey, I just want to thank Eric for all the work you did at running for Attorney General. You hit every county. You're the first elected official I know that hit every county. No offense to the current Attorney General, but he didn't even come to Barron County during the election.
No, we're not a fan of the current Attorney General. I'm sorry, I'm not. No, I'm still not. Nope. Hey, there's very few, because I'm pretty much down the middle on everything. But no, our Attorney General it's a joke.
But I appreciate the work you put in for it, and that's a lot of hours and a lot of time.
Yeah.
And enjoy it, and thank you for continuing your work. You could have given up being the head of the District Attorneys Association. You could have gave that all up, and you didn't, and I appreciate that.
Could have taken your ball and gone home. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I was in it for specific reasons, and really, proud to have so much support across Wisconsin. We got awfully darn close, but close isn't good enough. But it was great, getting all across Wisconsin. You brought up Adam's name at the beginning. I'm still looking forward to having a beer with him. My running joke with him is I'm not letting him pick the beer from what I saw in the campaign.
Well, actually, he's going to be filling in for you, Fitzy, in 2 weeks. I figured we had Eric. I probably have Adam on. Keep the peace there.
Talk about going down the middle of the road, man.
Yeah, see? I tell you, Jeebers. Yeah, no kidding. All right. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about, Eric, that we didn't get a chance to?
Just, the last thing I would say is when it comes to voting, the left is running circles around us on early voting and absentee voting. There was a really great bill that's being proposed right now where you could get a text message notification if you do absentee voting to make sure that your ballot has come in, because you can also track that online.
Nice.
But that's something as conservatives and Republicans have to start embracing, because that's what the law is. And we have to play by the rules that are in front of us right now. And I asked one of my county HR people a few weeks back, we were talking about absentee ballots, and I asked her, if you had to get every county employee to do something, would you rather have 1 day to do it or 4 weeks to do it? And she'd rather have 4 weeks to do it. And I'd rather us try to use all of the weeks that we have to get these votes in, because that's how we're going to start winning elections, especially in northern and western Wisconsin, where we're seeing more conservatives coming out. And the beauty of people that sign up for that absentee ballot, candidates and political parties, they can see that information and they can see when your ballot has come back, which means they can spend money targeting those votes to get those absentee ballots back in. So if you have a friend or family or somebody that you know is a conservative but maybe doesn't vote all the time, maybe try to get them to register for that absentee ballot, and then conservatives can smartly spend money to try to get that vote in. Some things we have to try to take advantage of as best we can over the next few election cycles.
Do you find yourself spending a lot of time in the HR's office?
Thankfully, no.
Okay, just curious. Awesome. Thank you, Eric, so much. What do you have coming up this week?
I used to be able to go a couple of weeks without a homicide hearing, and now with the drug overdoses, fatal crashes,
I see that a lot over there.
It's become sometimes multiple a day and a weekly occurrence. So just we're sadly having to move through those type of circumstances, and we've had two fatal crashes that have been alcohol related within about a week's time. So we'll just encourage people, get the designated driver and just be safe out there. We want you to get home safely and those around you safely on the roadways.
Amen. Fitzy, what do you have coming up this week?
I'm traveling out
Hockey?
For hockey.
Figures.
Next 2 weeks.
Do you ever work? No, you're in the office all the time.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and considering how much you slip, you should just stay in the office.
That's right.
All right, and I really have nothing major coming up this week at all, so it's just nice. No kidding. Eric, this has just been great. Thank you. It was an honor to have you back on. You're welcome anytime. Are you running for Attorney General again? Have you thought about that?
I am focused on doing
Oh,
my job.
boring.
Well, no, I'll be very, very direct, though. I have had so many people as I've gotten across the state a little bit talking about cash bail and helping out Judge Doro, and I've just been overwhelmed with the people that have encouraged me to think about doing it again. And it's definitely something I'll keep on my mind, but we'll see if I'm the right person at the right time and where my life is at. So no promises, but I'll keep the door open.
Or maybe he wants to be a judge.
Oh, snap.
No, thank you. I love my job right now. So
in 2 years, there'll be another opening in Supreme Court, I think. Oh, you should look at the Court of Appeals. That's where the real power's at.
Maybe he wants to come north. I think we might need a judge in a couple months.
Or probably an ADA. It sounds like I heard they're getting pay raises. You could do that.
Well, coincidentally, actually, some ADAs make more than DAs. We're having DAs that are here and there that are leaving to become an ADA because they're making more money. That'll start to change a little bit in the next term, so the legislature took some action on that front. But that actually does happen.
I know. When my dad retired from being sheriff, he had said that his chief deputy was actually making more money than he was. Yeah, that all makes sense. Whatever. We all need to just write all the rules and make all the rules for everything going forward. For Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald, I'm Ben Dryden, and you've been watching Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy, presented by Professional Exteriors and Interiors. With nearly 20 years of experience, this locally owned and operated business provides quality work both on the inside and on the outside of your home or business. So give Brian a call today, 715-520-2271. Special thank you to Fond du Lac County District Attorney and President of the Wisconsin District Attorneys Association, Eric Toney, for taking the time to join us this morning on The Big Show. Reminder, this Thursday, January 26th, Senator Romaine Quinn will be joining me for our first monthly show. I don't think we really have a name for it yet. So talk about all the things going on in the legislature, which I'm sure we'll be talking about some of this stuff down in Madison and, of course, in the 25th Senate District. Fitzy and I will be back next week to go over his 2022 annual report, one of my favorite things to do ever. I just like seeing all the drug crime, but like how many marijuana, how many this. I love that stuff. So until then, thank you for watching, and as always, have a blessed day.